Welcome back. It's time for another edition of Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey original podcast. Also heard on the radio on The Bet Las Vegas. So hello to our Las Vegas radio audience. We appreciate you being with us. And I say us because it's not just me, your humble host, Scott Gulbransen, along with my co-host, also known, a.k.a. Midtown Mo. He is Moe Moton, senior NFL writer at Bleacher Report. Also, Raiders columnist at sportsnet.com. You can follow him on x.com at MOEMOTON. I am at LV Gully. You can also catch my writing. I usually do it with crayons on sportsnet.com. So thank you guys for being with us. It's time to jump into Raiders football. How you doing, Raider Nation? How you doing? How you holding up after the Charger loss and all the negativity? I know. Mo, I had somebody on our YouTube channel say, I love your channel, but I think I just have to stop watching because it's so bad how things are going. And I said, no, we'll keep you company. We'll make you feel worse, but at the same time, we'll make you feel better. Right, Mo?
I don't know if that's a good message to send, Scott, but
No,
look, you can't, as they say, can't put lipstick on the pig, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's nothing you can say to fans to sugarcoat a 3-game losing streak to start the first quarter of your season. So.
Yeah. No question. And look, here's the deal. It doesn't mean that you can't find silver linings in things, but I want to talk to you, Mo, because you had on Wednesday last night, you had your Bleacher Report live. Ironically, all very, very older men in there with you. I don't know what the deal is. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking with you, trying to catch you off guard. But nonetheless, you're in there. You asked the question, okay, if the Raiders were to get rid of Josh McDaniels tomorrow, which many, many, many in Raider Nation would like to see happen, some are disappointed it hasn't already happened. But nonetheless, you asked the question about coaches. Like who? Okay, so who would you get to replace your coach? Give me your most intriguing answer, like one that actually makes sense, because we'll get into the ones that don't make sense.
There are two that I really like. One is Shane Waldron, offensive-minded offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, helped Geno Smith reinvent himself in Seattle. I think there's something to be said to take a quarterback who was talented coming out of West Virginia and then didn't have a good start with the Jets, bounced around the league, and you take that guy, turn him from a journeyman quarterback to a bona fide starter. On the defensive side, my best candidate was Dan Quinn. And I explained this for 2 straight weeks now that Dan Quinn isn't just a defensive coordinator. He wouldn't be there just to fix the Raiders defense. He knows how to build a pretty good coaching staff. I continue to point out his 2016 staff that had Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins head coach, Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers head coach, and also had, who else did it have? It had another head coach on there, Matt LaFleur, the Green Bay Packers. Also, Matt LaFleur was an assistant on that staff. So he had 3 future head coaches, and he also had Raheem Morris, who has a pass as a head coach on that staff. So this is a guy that, yeah, you're probably going to lose your offensive coordinator every 2 to 3 years. But if you have confidence in your CEO type of head coach to build the staff and rebuild the staff, then you can hire a defensive coordinator, and that guy can help your defense while building the other side of the ball with coaches who develop talent.
Yeah, it's a good point. But so 2 things, and I don't want to, well, I'll wait to spoil the fun in a second. But the coaches that other people, I don't understand. And it's not just Raider Nation, so I'm not picking on Raider Nation. It's every fan base wants to go to the past. Like the melancholy, the idea that Jack Del Rio came up in your show, right? There was a couple people who actually wanted Jack Del Rio.
There were quite a few people because as always, I open the chat for suggestions. Not just me, because I don't want to do all the talking and,
right.
Because Raider Nation it's an open discussion. So I asked the chat, obviously, who do you, any names you would put out there? Of course, I got a lot of Eric Bieniemy. I said I want to see Eric Bieniemy for a full year away from Andy Reid before I, kind of evaluate him as a play caller, because he was under Andy Reid. I'm not saying he had nothing to do with the operation, but I just want to see him away from Andy Reid, just as you want to see a Patriots disciple away from Bill Belichick, right? And the other name that came up was Deion Sanders, and I pointed to a tweet that I had, or a post recently that I had, that said Deion basically admitted that his coaching style wouldn't work in the NFL.
No.
Because there are guys that would be making more money than him, and he wouldn't be able to motivate them the same way he would motivate young men 19 to 21 years old.
Right.
And then the Jack Del Rio suggestion came up, and there were quite a few. And let me tell you, there were quite a few people that said Jack Del Rio shouldn't have been fired, bring him back. The other name that popped up that I thought was interesting was Cliff Kingsbury. I'm not on the Cliff Kingsbury bandwagon. Don't like how I understand he did better in the NFL than he did in college. But if I'm gonna bring a guy, if a retread, I would want him to have a winning pedigree or winning track record. And that's why my first suggestion was Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, people don't realize this. Jim Harbaugh has a 70% win percentage on the NFL level with the 49ers. He also has a 70% win percentage on the college level between Stanford and Michigan. So this is a guy who's done it at a high level on both the college and the pros.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to go on the record now. Jim Harbaugh's not going to be the Raiders coach ever. He leveraged the Vikings last year to get a deal at Michigan. He also, by the way, I agree with you, Mo. I mean, you look at his stats, it's hard. And I was in line last time saying they should have went and got him, right? Before they got Josh McDaniels. I thought it was going to happen. I really did. But you look back, he's been out of the NFL for a while now. And I think that makes a difference. I know, you step out, you come back in. We've seen what has happened with other coaches who've done that. So I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I think, look, and again, I'm not criticizing you, my friend, but I just think the talk of a new coach, it's a moot point because I don't think he's going to get fired. I don't think Mark Davis, unless it gets so disastrous, and we've talked about this before, right? I don't think he's going to fire him this year. I really do not think it's going to happen. And we heard today from Jeremy Fowler on ESPN, on Wednesday, about Davante Adams saying, hey, look, I'm good here. I don't need a trade. So Davante Adams is kind of backing Aiden O'Connell, too, by the way, said he did really well, that he had the locker room. So it sounds like the locker room situation, while there might be frustration over losing, which there always is not at the point to where you and I talked about in the preseason, which was the only way we would see him getting fired is if that became an open revolt against the head coach. It could still happen. I'm not saying it isn't. I just don't see it happening.
I agree. I don't see it happening. But if the Raiders go 1-8, would you be able to completely rule it out?
No.
If the leaders in the locker room, like Davante Adams, Max Crosby, and Josh Jacobs, band together and say this isn't it,
yeah,
would you rule it out? Because Vic Tafur wrote a piece. He had a mailbag column over on The Athletic, and he said, Mark Davis is trying to be really, really patient with the current regime. And we've said that plenty of times. But he said if the Raiders wind up losing the next 3 games, and I have a column up on Sportsnet breaking down the next 3 games versus the Packers at home, versus the Patriots at home, and then going on the road to face Chicago, who's also falling apart. By the way, Chicago hasn't won a football game in nearly a year. If the Raiders lose 3 straight games to those teams, can you absolutely blame Mark Davis for changing his narrative or changing his mind a bit and saying maybe we do need to hire a different head coach and general manager?
No, I agree with you there, and I think too there also is the totality of I think really troubling things that come out, not in the individual like, oh my gosh, that's that's incredible, but the little things that are starting to leak out, which I don't think is an accident, by the way. Okay, so when you talk about not losing the locker room, I think there's probably people there who would prefer not to have him there. But you saw Peter King, right? Peter King talking to Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack said he was chipped twice during the game. So remember in the press conference, Josh McDaniels didn't say different really. He just said, well, we put various guys on him. Made it sound like he double teamed him, but he didn't. He just switched assignments sometimes. He switched in some rotating guys. Like, if I'm the owner and I see that, wait a minute, 1 sack, 2 sacks, 3 sacks, and I don't do anything different, see, these are the kind of little things, Mo, that I think are building. And to your point, you put that on top of, let's say, like you said, you lose the next 3. Now you're 1-6, okay? Then you put on what players are saying and what they're telling the owner, because he does talk to players. Then you start to accumulate, I think, a lot of weight on the shoulders of Josh McDaniels. And suddenly, yes, a change becomes more evident. But because you're right, this 3-game stretch, they have to turn it around. I'm not saying they're going to win all 3 of them, but they better win 2 or 3. They better win 2 or 3. Because if not, there's real trouble in River City.
2-5? Because I believe they were 2-5 last year after 7 games.
Yeah.
So that means 0 progress through the
Zero.
first about half of the season.
Right.
Look, as I've said, it's going to take more than a bad record because I think, and I have this post pinned to my X profile where Vic Tafur basically says, the guys up top, Davis, Ziegler, and McDaniels are not judging the season on wins. So you may ask yourself, what are they judging the season on? It's player development because they have the idea that this team isn't close to being a contender. So we understand we're not going to have a good record this year, but we just want to see the rookie class progress. And to that, I say the rookie class, very little progression there. Could you name one rookie that's made a huge impact this season? I know it's early. It's only the first quarter of the season. There's still plenty of time. But if we're on this rate, none of the rookies have shown great promise yet. They've taken baby steps. Tyree Wilson now he has a faster get off. Okay. But you got to get to the quarterback. That's what they drafted you 7th overall for. Jacorian Bennett has a good play here and a bad play here. Has a flag here. It's debatable, but not a major impact yet. Yeah. Byron Young, he's on a milk carton right now. Mm-hmm. He's a rookie. Give him some time, but he hasn't made a great impact. There are no other than Aiden O'Connell, and I liked what I saw out of Aiden O'Connell. What can you say that you really said, okay, I see something special in this player. I see some promise.
There's been nobody. Player. You're right, and you're right that the player that's shown the most, and granted it's only one game, but in the preseason is Aiden O'Connell. That's the one guy, and he's not going to play. So go figure. Exactly. You have Michael Mayer, nothing. So Trey Tucker, nothing. So it's very frustrating. I understand from a fan's perspective too, looking at it and saying, "Whoa, why are we not getting more out of these guys?" And that's the simple question. That's the question Mark Davis has to ask. And to your point, if it's not about wins and it's about progression, then boy, my offensive line is regressing.
Yep.
My first round draft pick got blown up by a wide receiver. I'm sure you've all seen that film of Keenan Allen taking out Tyree Wilson. I mean, it just seems like there's one hit after the other.
For the Raider fans that are depressed hearing this, I just want to put a ball on this by saying it's still early. We're only through the first quarter of the season, and we had Matt Holder on a few weeks ago, and I said I won't really start to look at Tyree Wilson with a very critical eye until mid-season, right? Because we all know he had a slow off season coming up, that foot injury, foot surgery. Byron Young, I expected to see a little more from him. I know he had an injury too this off season, but I expected him, to get more snaps in that rotation, especially with, just Bilal Nichols making a play here and there. Nesta J. Severa not getting on the field till last week. So where is the growth coming from this rookie class? It's just not there yet.
No, it's not there yet. And then I also don't understand. I mean, look, there's also veteran players who are not being utilized. We talked a lot about that on Tuesday's show, right, Mo? And I've talked about it in the mailbag yesterday as well with the viewers who wrote in. And so it's a weird thing. They have to change. They have to flip the script, so to speak. They have to change the narrative, and it has to start on a big stage on Monday night against the Packers at home. Again, the Raiders haven't won at home consistently, and people wonder why there's a lot of visiting fans there. Just saying, it's the way it goes. So we'll get into that. But first, in the next segment, we are going to talk about. We'll get to Jimmy Garoppolo updates and other things happening with the team in the final segment. But coming up after the break, we're going to be joined by Daniel Kotnick. Daniel Kotnik. He's going to talk about the Packers. He's out in Wisconsin. He's going to give us a lowdown on Jordan Love and the new look Green Bay Packers. We'll see what it's like. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will rejoin you. We will continue to talk Raiders football, and you will get better. You will feel better. I promise. This is Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Original Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It is Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Original Podcast. Also heard on the air, on the radio in Las Vegas. If you're listening to us there on the Bet Las Vegas, thanks for being with us. Gulbransen and Moe Moton. And joining us now, Daniel Kotnik of Game On Wisconsin, also the Pack-A-Day podcast. So we're talking Green Bay Packers football. Raiders obviously host the Green Bay Packers and their young quarterback, Jordan Love, out at Allegiant Stadium on Monday Night Football. And so, Dan, we wanted to get you on. Thanks for being on with us, man. Let's talk about this. Obviously, the Packers move away from the legend, right? The future Hall of Famer. And now he's in New York, the name we shall not mention right now. But Aaron Rodgers is there. And so they turn to Jordan Love. Jordan Love has a nice early season, ran into some trouble this past game in the loss. But overall, how would you assess the transition to Jordan Love from an offensive standpoint and from this team from a leadership standpoint?
Yeah. First off, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. And, it's still kind of up in the air with Jordan Love. I think that if you're talking about how he's looked as a quarterback, it's hard really to say that there's been many things to kind of knock on him. When you watch him play, he plays in the rhythm of the offense. He seems to make all of the right reads. He anticipates where plays are supposed to end up. Really, his big thing right now is kind of cleaning up small mechanics. It's fixing some of the accuracy issues that he's sort of had. And, a lot of the problems, I think, too, if you want to look at the offense as a whole, have not really been around Jordan Love. It's been around a young, inexperienced team that's built around him. And also just some troubles on the offensive line have been big, too. They haven't helped this offense get into a rhythm. We've seen that crop up really the last 3 weeks. Obviously, the biggest one being this past week against Detroit. The inexperience with that offensive line, especially that left side there, they put this offense behind the sticks early. Jordan has to kind of be forced into obvious passing situations, which is not what you want to put a young quarterback in. And without Aaron Jones, they've had to rely on A.J. Dillon as being the main running back. And we've kind of seen he really doesn't have the wherewithal to be a three-down kind of aggressive running back that this type of offense really kind of needs. So a lot of the struggles early on, I think, kind of are a collective offensively from what we've seen out of Jordan Love. I think you have to be happy with it if you're a Packer fan. It's kind of funny. We're all trying to figure out how to properly like look at a quarterback and adjudicate what he's doing when we're so used to watching Aaron Rodgers make every single throw, and you're like, oh, this is what an average quarterback looks like. This is what a guy that isn't, a four-time MVP looks like. So it's kind of tricky as Packer fans. It's been a lot of trying to figure out how to properly judge what we see out of Jordan Love. But I think if you're being analytical about it and you're watching him, you have to be happy with what you've seen out of a guy in his first 4 games.
So, Daniel, the Raiders have struggled defensively. They had a shutout against the Chargers last week where the Chargers didn't score a point in the second half. But could you just kind of break down the Packers' young pass-catching group? And Dobbs, Watson, Wicks, Luke Musgrave, before he got that concussion, was productive. Are you looking at this pass-catching group as if, okay, it can elevate Jordan Love, or do you feel like Jordan Love has to elevate that group, being that it's young still, and he's also still young?
Sure. I think it's a little bit of, it might sound like a cop-out. It's a little bit of both, I think when we saw the Matt LaFleur offense kind of come in, about 5 years ago, I think that has to play a huge part in the resurgence we saw out of the Aaron Rodgers career, because this offense, it's, that Shanahan coaching tree style of offense that really allows it schemes open your best offensive players. And Aaron was able to really thrive in a system like that. And I think that system is really helping Jordan Love, and as well as helping a lot of these young pass catchers. I think if you're talking about in terms of like how much, if you want to call it blame, or, how much one person sort of needs to lead the other, I think this wide receiving group or this pass catching group needs to help Jordan out a little bit more in terms of figuring out how he likes to play. It's been pretty clear there's been some obvious mistakes in big situations on fourth downs, plays that turn into interceptions, where you can tell the pass catchers, whether they're the running backs, wide receivers, they are playing how Aaron liked to play. They're running the scramble drill early. They're setting up, at this position when Jordan wants them to go this way on a slant or something. So I think if you want to look at it in terms of that, I think the pass catchers might need to play a little bit of catch up with how Jordan Love likes to run the offense, but that's gonna come. That just is time. That is getting used to the reps. It's getting in there, and we've seen. We've seen Romeo Dobbs take a huge step here in his second year. He's kind of come out and established himself as one of the best pass catchers on this team. Now, when Christian Watson can get fully healthy, I think that opens up a lot of things too. You mentioned Musgrave. He's been they haven't been able to connect on it, but you've seen this offense dial up things specifically for him up the middle, where Aaron never really liked to go much in his later years. And so he's become that middle threat that the Packers offense has been just crying out for. And then I'd be remiss, honestly, if I didn't mention the rookie Jaden Reed from Michigan State. When we watch film with him, this is something I think you guys will appreciate. You see the way he runs his routes, the way he breaks off of things. He looks like a young Devontae Adams. It is like that kind of the way he just sort of is able to master coming out of breaks has really shown early on he's going to step up as a guy that he can rely on. So again, it's all in all with the whole offense. It's going to take time. It's going to take reps to get used to it. But I think, there's clearly a learning curve that a lot of the offensive line, a lot of the offensive players all over kind of need to relearn how to play a Green Bay Packer offense without Aaron Rodgers. They need to play it with Jordan Love.
Well, Daniel, let's switch to the other side of the ball now too, because this is a really interesting matchup with the Raiders, because the Packers have the worst run defense in the league, and the Raiders have the second worst rushing offense in the league. So somebody's going to have a good day and feel pretty good about it, I think, after this one, because either the Packers are going to improve their statistics against the run, or the Raiders are actually going to start doing what they usually do last year, was get Josh Jacobs on track. What's been the reason for that up front, and with that Packers defense? What's going on there against the run? Why aren't they able to stop anybody?
Yeah, I think it's partially due to scheme and kind of partially due to just the defensive line is really young for the Packers. Kenny Clark is the stalwart that he's always been. We've seen some young guys like Slayton and Wyatt take big steps, but they're still very young. And then you throw in there that the other rotational guys like Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden are two rookies, like late round rookies, that are getting in there to play. Behind them, Devondre Campbell, the starting middle linebacker, he's been hurt now the last couple of weeks. He's been banged up. And there's really not much help coming from the safety group as well. I think this defense is very clearly designed around pinning your ears back and stopping the pass, getting to the quarterback. And so I think they've really fallen into a system where they need that to be the case to succeed. Otherwise, they don't really know how quite to respond to that. They don't really have that drive to be the big run stoppers. Joe Barry, say what you will about him, he's ready to be run out on rail in Packerland, but he's been trying to do things. He's been trying to put guys in position, and we saw a couple of times in Atlanta when Bijan Robinson broke loose for almost $125. Sometimes it's literally just on the players not executing. They're overrunning plays. They're losing contain on the edge. It's clear that they're an inexperienced group that doesn't know how to work with each other yet. And I think that is the pass defense is going to, or the run defense is going to suffer when you've got a young team like that, because it's so much more about the discipline and sticking to a scheme rather than just go kill the guy with the football that's back there. So I think that's the big thing for them is just another inexperienced group on the front there. And again, like, it's the way that this team is kind of designed. They play this complementary football where they hope that the offense can get up by 2 scores early on and force you not to be able to run Josh Jacobs and be able to like pin their ears back and just go crazy. And when that doesn't happen, they run into some issues because they're just not built like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So big picture, Dan, because anytime we bring on someone from another fan base, I like to just get the pulse of what the fans are thinking about their football team. So the Packers have alternated wins and losses. They still own the Bears. So that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Love starts the first 2 games, doesn't turn the ball over, has 3 interceptions in the last 2 games. Are there fans out there who are concerned after losing to the Lions on Thursday night, or are they still feeling confident in Jordan Love and this football team moving forward?
Yeah, I think again, we have to clarify what the definition of fan is. Are you an internet troll? That's because there's plenty of those out there that are after the first interception Jordan threw that was like, can we get Aaron back? I'll give him my Achilles tendon, I swear. No, it's I think when you look at the baseline average fan, they realized that this year is most likely just a kind of wait and see year. Offensively, a lot of young players, like we said, on the pass catching side, and then obviously Jordan Love. We want to see what he can do in different situations and being the guy for a whole year. Defensively, I think the expectations were a little bit higher, or at least the leash for that side of the ball is a little bit shorter. Maybe I mentioned that there's some young players, but there's still, there are Pro Bowlers, arguably all pros, in several different positions there. Like Jair Alexander is arguably an all-pro cornerback. Kenny Clark is, has been one of the best defensive linemen in the league. And Rashawn Gary is, he's up there sort of in that Max Crosby tier of like a guy that you need to game plan for, or he will wreck your day. There's talent all over that defense there. And I think the least a little bit shorter on what we expect to see out of them, like progression-wise. Offensively, though, I think we all sort of knew that this would be, a bit of an up and down season. The highs are going to be really high. The lows are going to be really low. I think the loss in Detroit was more just sort of a wake-up call. Probably when I say for Packer fans, I mean for me personally, that maybe we don't get to be the schoolyard bully in the NFC North anymore. And that it's, you probably will still be able to compete and have a chance to win the division. You're not going to be, the Vikings or the Bears right now that are desperate for their first win, but you're not just going to be able to, hold your hand up against the forehead of the Lions and say, nah, 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 it's going to be a little bit trickier now, So yeah, I think the moderate fan had tempered expectations going into this year, but it always just kind of sucks to lose to the Lions like that at home.
After all those years, yeah, and with the Packers dominating for so long, yeah, as a fan, I can imagine how frustrating that is. And I anticipate a full group of cheeseheads to come out to Vegas for Monday night's game. When I was at UNLV and the University of Wisconsin would come out, always great. And I know that Raider fans want to beat the pants off the Packers, but Packer fans, always great people to be around, always well-meaning, good-natured. And so I'm sure the game at Allegiant Stadium is going to be a lot of fun. Daniel Kotnick, I appreciate it. Make sure you check out his podcast, which is Pack a Day Podcast, and he's also on Game On Wisconsin. My friend, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
All right, there you go. All right, Mo, we got our skinny on the Packers. It'll be interesting. This Raider team in desperate need of a win, and they're not, they're going to go against the worst run defense in the NFL, but they went against a pretty bad one in the Chargers, and they couldn't get anything going. So it's going to be an interesting Monday night.
Not to curse, Scott. I think that they're probably the third worst. I don't think they're the worst, but I think I didn't ask Daniel this, but I think they gave up 211 rushing yards in 2 out of their 4 games.
Yeah.
If I'm correct, he's shaking his head yes in the back room. So yeah, they gave up 211 yards in 2 games, but I think statistically they're I would guess, if I had to take a guess, right, I would say the Denver Broncos probably maybe up there. That's just me. But I like I said, when I asked him about the pulse of the Packers fans, it's because, as you said, when you're used to being, and I think he mentioned this, when you're used to being the bully in the division, and then you lose by multiple scores on Thursday night in the standalone game, you start to get, I guess, even the rational fans start to say, well, is Jordan Love going to be that guy for us to lead us to some, conference title, division titles or not? And I think that's the overreaction, because it's the only game on TV. It's a division rival. So of course there's some overreaction because we see it, against the Chargers, against the Broncos, the Chiefs always beat the Raiders these days, so it's not really a surprise. But again, when you're used to being at the top and now you're kind of maybe the second team in that division, tough pill to swallow. But I would think that if we were talking to Packers fans, they probably feel confident against the Raiders because the Raiders have been able to stop a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's hard, I know, for other fans to feel sorry for them because you had Aaron Rodgers all those years. You had all those great runs. But yeah, for a Packer fan, I can imagine. All right, we're going to step aside, take our final break. When we come back, we'll close out the show. We'll talk about some Raiders roster moves, what's going on there with Jimmy Garoppolo, and whatever else Mo and I come up with. It is Silver and Black today, an Odyssey original podcast, also heard on the air, on the radio, on the Bet in Las Vegas. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Silver and Black today, the home stretch here as we get set to send you out to Allegiant Stadium on Monday. That's right. We won't talk to you between now and then unless we drop a show tomorrow on Friday. You obviously will hear the show on Saturday night on the Bet in Las Vegas, which means the game. Mo, without a Raider game on Sunday, it's almost like you and I both work on Sundays because of football, but it almost seems like we're going to have an easier day because the Raiders aren't playing. Now, I know they play Monday night, but it makes the Sunday a little easier, right?
It does.
You're not doing your live show. I'm not doing a live show. Mm-hmm. I don't have to do a Raiders piece for Sports Not that night. I get to do it Monday night instead. It's a little low.
I actually thought about that before I got on air with you, because the Raiders don't play on Sunday. I'm still covering the entire league, but my day is basically done after I write about the first slate of 1 p.m. Eastern time games. I don't have to go all live. I don't have to fully break down a Raider game after, but it is going to be fun to have another Monday Night Football game, whether Raider fans are upset about Josh McDaniels being the head coach or not. I like to see the Raiders in prime time. Maybe it's just me, but I like to see the Raiders on Sunday night and Monday night. Whether they win or lose, we'll see. But as I think I talked about this off air with you, this is a crucial stretch for them. These teams that they're playing the next 3 games, these teams aren't high scoring teams. The Packers, while they've won 2 games, they're not an offensive juggernaut. I think you heard Daniel say that they're still figuring out how to, the receivers are still figuring out how to work with Jordan, what he likes and what he doesn't like. Right. We talked about we also talked about the Patriots, and their offense is a mess, and the Bears are a complete mess offensively and defensively. So the Raiders, to me, if I'm marking down wins and losses, which is a big mistake because they're probably just going to do the opposite of what I'm going to say right now, but they should win at least 2 of these games. Bears and Packers or Patriots, they should win at least 2 of those.
Well, and the Patriots, Mo, the Patriots are reeling right now because you talked about Daniel Jones. I mean, what Bill Belichick is saying in Bill Belichick language is not good for Daniel Jones.
Mac Jones.
What's that?
Mac Jones.
Oh, Mac Jones. I call him Daniel Jones. Sorry. They're both having trouble. Thank you. See what happens with age? Senior moment. But yes. Zach Jones, Daniel Jones. How do they have to have similar names? All right, so there you go. But my point is, he seems to have lost confidence. He probably doesn't have confidence in Daniel Jones as well. And so they kind of roll. And to your point about their defense, I mean, he's coming off the worst loss. I know this week they play again, but last week the worst loss in his coaching career for Bill Belichick. There's even talk in Boston of Bill Belichick maybe on his way out, maybe. Of course, we all know he can leave when he wants. He's not going to get fired. But who knows? And then, of course, a lot of people coming out, see, it was Tom Brady. It was Tom Brady all along. It was Tom Brady. Well, we'll see. But anyway, this stretch for the Raiders, I mean, if the disaster of all disasters would be to lose all 3, I think even losing 2 out of 3 would be very, very bad for this team. But to win 2 out of 3 or to go, you could change your season by winning all 3 of them. Especially you got one on the road against Chicago, who is just, you talk about an organization reeling. It's the time to do it. If you don't do it now, I just don't understand. They have a gauntlet later in the season. It's going to be tough to get through, but they need some good news here. They need some positive momentum.
I was just getting ready to say, because this is the quote unquote easier part of the schedule. Because then they got to play the Lions, the Chiefs, the Dolphins, and these teams are rolling. And if you can't beat the Bears, who haven't won a game in a year, if you can't beat the Patriots, who can't score, 20 points, 23 points either.
Yeah.
then what are we doing here? And what I fear is that, and I know I posted this on X. Jeremy Fowler had a report. Devontae Adams not looking to get out of Vegas, right?
Right.
He's also a big believer, and I'm using Jeremy Fowler's words. He said Devontae Adams. He wrote Devontae Adams is a big believer in Aiden O'Connell. I'm not worried about Devontae Adams being traded at this point. But would the Raiders now consider trading Josh Jacobs if they're 2-5 close to the deadline, being what Josh Jacobs' production is? Now, I know he had a big day against the Chargers, but the run game hasn't been what we expected it to be.
Yeah.
And I think Raider Nation starts to get a little anxiety and a little panic when you hear the trade deadline, you hear all these names floating around. Now, I don't think Max Crosby and Devontae go anywhere, but I could see Josh Jacobs getting moved.
Yes, and not only that, it's interesting you brought that up because I was talking on our NFL Playbook podcast with Evan earlier today about the fact that the Ravens, look at the Ravens. The Ravens are in the catbird seat at 3-0 in the conference, right? I mean, in the division, 3-0 in the division. They're going to play Pittsburgh this weekend. And Pittsburgh, I don't see Pittsburgh winning that game. So Baltimore is going to be in a position where you get to the trade deadline, they could use a running back. And Josh Jacobs is the perfect trade bait because they can walk away from him after the year. You don't have to pay him. You don't have to pay him, right?
Do you know who the Ravens can send in return for Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, that guy was it his last name? No, Queen. Yes, he's had a nice start to the season, by the way. But yes, so to my point though, there are going to be teams like the Ravens who could bolster their opportunity to move deeper into the playoffs because the Ravens are going to win that division. There's no question. So you look at that and you say, to your point, Mo, Josh Jacobs. If I'm the Raiders, we're already thinking about moving on from you anyway, most likely. Let's get something. Unlike what they did with Derek Carr, they could actually get something for Josh Jacobs, especially near the trade deadline at the end of this month on Halloween. So yeah, I would expect that to happen, especially if the next few weeks go very poorly.
He's the only guy that and Hunter Renfrow, of course, because they're not using him. Hunter Renfrow is still collecting dust somewhere, in the slot somewhere where he's lined up. I'm not going to even get on that spiel right now, but it's completely ridiculous. The underutilization of the offensive playmakers on that roster right now, something's got to change.
What about Jimmy Garoppolo? Do we know that he's healthy, ready to go? It sounds like he was. They sounded like he was earlier in the week, Mo. Josh McDaniels said, yeah, if he's available, he's starting. I mean, and I would expect that. I'm not arguing against it, but it's been a little bit quiet, which makes me wonder.
I would assume that he's going to be back. I shouldn't assume because I don't know how Jimmy's feeling. But usually, so far this season, we haven't seen a player out multiple weeks, I don't think, for a concussion. I think every player that's suffered a concussion has missed at least one football game. And I expect Jimmy G to be back out there. But, of course, the Raiders, their schedule's a little pushed back because they're playing on Monday. So maybe we hear more about Jimmy G's status on Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, everything's
a
day off.
But I expect him to be back under center after hearing what Josh McDaniels said about the turnovers on Sunday. And that his comments about that last play got a lot of play on social media. My only thing was he gave a detailed response to the question, which the media loves. Guys like you and I love that. Mm-hmm. I just wish that he had said, look, we can't turn the ball over. That's on the quarterback, but I can also have made a better play call in that situation.
Yeah. And actually, the play call wasn't a bad one except for down and distance, right? I mean, the down on first down, no. On third down, yes. Maybe even on second down, depending. But when you're 3 yards away from the end zone and you have the running back and you have Jakob Johnson, who is a beast of a man who was blowing guys up earlier in the game, by the way, before they went away from the run game because it wasn't working, it makes no sense. So, I mean, I know we're going back to the previous game, but these are the kind of decisions that lose games for you versus win games for you. And so against the Packers, they're going to have to be aggressive, but at the same time know what to do here. And if you have your veteran quarterback under center, fine. But Mo, tell me the keys to this game for you in your mind, the Raiders to win it. For me, it's all about the running game, knowing how the Packers are against the run.
All about the run game, number one. Got to run the football effectively to beat the Packers. I think the Packers are much stronger against the pass than the auto run. We just talked to Daniel and said they're designed to get after the quarterback, run the ball, take advantage of their aggressiveness. Number two, no turnovers. Can't turn the ball over. Jimmy G, Aiden O'Connell, Kevin O'Connell, Neil O'Donnell, whoever is under center, can't turn the ball over. No turnovers for the Raiders on offense. Can't give the Packers more possessions. The other thing is I want to see that defense, build on the momentum that they had in the second half of that Chargers game.
Yeah.
They held Justin Herbert to a lot of career low numbers. Now you get a lesser quarterback in Jordan Love, a less proven quarterback in Jordan Love. Let's see how the defense can build on what they did against Justin Herbert.
Yeah, agreed. And I want to see this offense score some points. To me, this should be a defense that you need to get more than 18 points in this game. I'll put it that way. you need to move the ball. You need to get touchdowns and put some points up and have those guys earn their money. And oh, by the way, have the coach target these guys. We had Nick Lombardi said that they have plays for Michael Mayer. They have plays for Hunter Renfrow. But it's the second week in a row I've heard the same thing from the offensive coordinator and from the head coach, and then they go out and they don't target him.
You can't take anything from these head coaches in these press conferences because Josh McDaniels went up there and said, we tried everything against Khalil Mack, and then the numbers show they double teamed them twice. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. That's not about owning your mistakes right there. It's not. It's
like, Scott, really quick. It's like,
leadership.
do they not know we have access to these numbers? Like if you're going to get up to the podium, maybe he didn't know because he's an offensive guy, Josh McDaniels, but I hope these guys understand that it isn't 1987. Right. We can go on any number of analytical sites and double check what you're saying during these press conferences. So if you're saying that, and he didn't say how many times they double teamed Khalil Mack, but he made it seem like we did it,
we did a
number of times, more than twice. I mean, if he's wrecking your offensive line, he should be double teamed more than twice. I'm just saying.
And you brought it up again, and again, I just can't believe that it was twice. I mean, dude, after the third sack, would you not be like, "Whoa, we guys, we got to do something here"? Maybe not. I don't know.
Help on out 5.
Yes. So true. By the way, watching the film, remember we were talking about, Murph and I talked about it in the postgame. Literally, the Raiders only moved the ball when he wasn't on the field. When he was on the field, almost every single time, their plays were either not successful or they were short gains. It was incredible. It was, and yet you don't double team them, you don't chip them, you don't do anything. So there you go. Well, but you know what? Now, Mo, we're moving forward. We're talking about the Packers, and I agree with you on the keys of the game. Their defense, you want to see them build momentum. They really need to build momentum. Also, the cornerbacks got to do better. Marcus Peters, Jacorian Bennett, we got to see more out of them. They're giving up a little too much. You see moments, but this whole defense has to do better. And it started to against the Chargers. So like you said, build momentum. And then offense, if Josh Jacobs doesn't have a Josh Jacobs game this time, folks, I'm afraid you won't see it all year. Because this is the time to do it. This is the defense to do it against. And to me, that's what they do. I'm not gonna pick the Raiders in this game, Mo, because I can't. I just can't pick them in a game. How do you pick them in a game? Now, I'm gonna say I think they should win and probably will win, but I can't tell you a score. I just don't know because part of me thinks they'll lose.
I'll say this, and Raider fans listen to this, I'm always honest. I'm not going to try to blow smoke up your rectum. I actually picked the Raiders to win this football game. I have the Bleacher Report betting column up. I have the Raiders winning 24-21. Maybe it's wishful thinking.
Whoa.
24 points, yes.
Whoa.
I want to see 3 touchdowns. 2 from Jacobs, 1 from Adams.
Wow.
24-21, Raiders win. Look, maybe I'm out of my mind. Maybe I just,
they got to show me first.
Maybe it's sleep deprivation. I don't know. But I'm picking the Raiders to actually win this football game in their building, at their home. The Raiders have not won a home game since week 15 of last year, and that was the Chandler Jones walk-off fumble recovery for a touchdown game. Yes. Now, I know they played the San Francisco 49ers and the Chiefs at home. They're Super Bowl contenders, but losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a standalone game, you get a mediocre, okay Packers team that's still trying to figure it out offensively. Win the football game. Raiders, don't make me look silly here, because if you lose here and you lose badly, I don't think I could pick the Raiders to beat the Patriots if they lose against the Packers.
Over under on Renfrow receptions. I'm going to put it at 2.
Push. I say push. He's going to get 2 catches.
2 catches. Probably just 2 targets, not even catches. Oh my gosh. How about Michael Mayer? Over under 0.
he's going to get blanked. I don't see my problem with Michael Mayer is I understand his his blocking period is a work in progress,
Pass
but
the ball to him.
you could right. You could still use what he's good at as a
I know.
pass catcher. You could still
Yeah.
get him on the field in that sense.
Yeah.
For them not to just use him, I don't know what's going on there. Devontae Adams, I know is going to have going against his former team for the first time. He's going to have a big game. I expect Josh Jacobs to have a big game. I kind of expect Jacoby Myers to also have a pretty good game. He's been consistent when on the field. Of course, he missed that one game with a concussion, but I expect the usual characters to contribute. Can they get other guys involved?
Yeah, I think Garoppolo is going to have a typical good Garoppolo game, right? Nothing to write home about, nothing that's going to make fantasy football owners excited. But I do think he will because of what you're saying, because they will get the running game established. Devontae Adams will be on fire. You have Jacoby Myers as the number 2 there doing really, really well. So they should move the ball and they should score. But I can't pick them because until they prove it to me, I just can't. But anyway, I think it'll be a good night for the Raiders. I think it'll be a good night for Raider Nation as they watch their team on Monday Night Football and they can stroll into the office the next day wearing their gear, feeling good if they win. So they need that. Raider Nation needs that, Mo. They need some good news.
We need some good news here at Silver and Black today as well.
I know.
Because like I said at the beginning of the show, it's hard to sit here and tell fans, oh, maybe you have to wait until next year till we see progress. How many years in a row consecutively have you been saying that? At some point it has to change. Something has to change. Something has to be different.
No, the coach. I know. Everybody out there is yelling at us at the coach. All right, my man. What do you got coming up this week with your lives and your written work?
So as I said, I got a Sports Knot piece out right now, just going over the importance of the Raiders coming out with a winning record over the next 2 games. I think they have to win 2 of the next 3 for it to kind of cool the Fire McDaniels crowd down a little bit. Of course, there'll be still people out there saying Fire McDaniels, but I think 2 wins would actually help him and kind of not restore faith, but say, okay, maybe they're starting to build some momentum. I talked about the defense today. Jimmy Garoppolo, we think, is going to play. If Josh Jacobs can get going, it can kind of change the tenor in the locker room and within the fan base if they can pull that off. That's my major piece of at Sports Knot. Of course, as we talked about Monday before the game, I'm going to go over inactives for the Raiders-Packers game, just talk about who's in, who's out. And after the game, I'll be on postgame as I normally am, just breaking down what happened. Hopefully it's a Raider win because I'm sure if it's not, fans are going to go berserk.
Yes, they will. I agree with you that. So make sure you get all that. Follow Mo on x.com, MOEMOTON. You can follow me as well at LV Gully. The show is SNB Today. And make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast, wherever you get your audio. You can even walk in the house and say, Alexa, play Silver and Black Today. Playing Silver and Black Today with Mr. Midtown Mo. Bing, and then it plays. So there you go. So do that for us. Also subscribe to the YouTube. As always, just great chat in the YouTube. We have such great listeners. I texted Mo on Tuesday night saying, man, everybody in the chat on YouTube, our viewers, really disappointed in what's going on, but really level-headed and really good discussion about what do you do next? Where do you head from here? And that's why I love our listeners, because it's not just a lot of hot takes. It's actually people who know what they're talking about that are realistic. Yes, they get emotional and angry and happy too, but at the same time, it's always a great discussion. So hit the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell up on our YouTube channel as well. All right, Mo. Well, we will next talk. I think we're going to do, what do you think, Mo, about a Monday morning show? Should we do a Monday morning show? What do you think?
Why not? Just kind of previewing what we think is going to happen, because you didn't want to give any predictions today. We'll warm up Scott to get him some,
I will. I'll make a prediction on Monday once I know everybody's playing and how it's all coming down. So look for a special show Monday mid-morning, right? Because Mo and I aren't going to get up at 4 a.m. to do a show. We'll get up a little later, and then we'll make the show available. And then, of course, we'll have our post-game with Murph, which will be available for Tuesday. And then we'll talk to you back in our normal slot on Thursday next week, as well as a mailbag on Wednesday. So you get Monday through Thursday next week at no additional cost. What a deal. I mean, we're just giving it away, Mo.
Somebody's got to be giving the fans something, because the Raiders aren't giving them very much.
I knew you were. You've been so good with these turns of phrase, man. It's been very, very nice. I appreciate that. Mo likes it when the Raiders lose. I'm just saying. He gets to bring this all out. It's crazy.
I get a little snippy when the Raiders lose a lot of games.
It's all good. I'm just glad that we don't have the leaf blower today. Good. Somebody asked me on the YouTube, what was that noise in the background? I said, oh, it's a leaf blower.
Yeah, I got to keep my grass out there, manicured properly. Can't have bad grass.
Got to have it good. All right, my friend. I will talk to you on Monday.
24-21 Raiders. We'll see.
There you go. All right. For our producer, Mike Robier, and for Moe Moton, I am Scott Gulbransen. This has been Silver and Black today, an Odyssey original podcast also heard on the Bet in Las Vegas. We will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care, Raider Nation. Enjoy your weekend.